Welcome back. Gather my thoughts here, gather up anything I may need, and we're going to walk through what I mentioned in that last little video that I posted about the correction I'm going to make. And then I'm also going to do something else. Let's do the something else first. I want to show you guys this book. And I don't know if you can see it because I can't see what the camera's seeing, but hopefully we can see. It's called The Lost Word, Its Hidden Meaning, a correlation, a correlation of the allegory and symbolism of the Bible with that of Freemasonry and an exposition of the secret doctrine. And this is by George Steinmetz. If you're a Freemason, you should know that name. And if you don't, learn that name, because you're going to learn a lot from George Steinmetz. He's a very learned Mason, and he's written some excellent books. But what I wanted to show you in this book was the concept of breaking down the words the way that we've been doing. Our language goes back to the root sounds that were produced by man in the primitive world. And there's different theories about how that all came to be, but regardless, that's what we're talking about. I think Pike calls them Ammonian radicals. The Ammonian radicals. Ammonian coming from Ammon, or Amun-Ra, Amun-Ra, which was an Egyptian god. Ammon. It's actually where we get our word. While we're on the topic, where can I write this here? I'm going to write it right in here. It's actually where we get our word Amen. Amen. That's where we get the word from. It's from Ammon, or Amun. Amun-Ra. Amen. It's why we say Amen at the end of prayer. The Judaic religion goes back to Egypt. It tells you, it alludes to this in the Bible when it talks about Moses being learned in all of the Egyptian wisdom. Okay? And you can go ahead and do your own study on that, because I want to read something out of this book real quick, and I don't have a lot of time on this, so we're going to have to move here. But I want to read this to you. Okay. Origin of the names of patriarchs. In Abraham is the syllable Ra, which is the name of the Egyptian sun god. The etymologist may say, pure coincidence. If so, he must be prepared to account for numerous other coincidences, which may prove more difficult of explanation. Abraham is translated father of a multitude, but his name, according to the Bible, had previously been Abram, meaning father of elevation. Remember what we said. Abram, and then when he added the H, it's because he got his orders to issue the Divine Fiat, to leave and take his own journey. Remember that? Remember we talked about that. Abram, meaning father of elevation. It is indeed a curious coincidence that Ra was personified by the sun, which to the observer is elevated. To the Egyptian, therefore, Ra was the elevated father, father of elevation. Pursuing the coincidence further, Ra is the first, the source of all material life, that from which all things material spring. A study of the biblical account of Abraham reveals him to be a human counterpart of the attributes the Egyptians credited to Ra. Abraham, in fact, is the symbol of the material physical man and the masculine element in nature. He coincides with the entered apprentice in the symbology of Freemasonry. He is the first of his line. He is the father, life giver, to a multitude, the nation, which is to spring from him. Okay, we're not going to go any more on that, but if you followed my videos, then you know that everything issues from what's below it. Okay, but get yourself a copy of this book, The Lost Word and Its Hidden Meaning. Okay, and he's got other books as well. The Meaning of Masonry, excellent book. Excellent book. All Masons should read that. Okay, and then he's got another one called The Masonic Initiation, where it's all about what we're doing in this physical world. We're creating gold. That's our soul. What we're doing through right action, consecration to God, and studying the ancient mysteries and getting an understanding of them is we're building our soul gold. That's going to be the body we use in the next incarnation, is our soul body. We won't have a dense physical mineral body anymore. We're going up in levels of gradation. Right now we're at the mineral stage. Okay. Next we're going to go to the plant stage. This all gets into mineral, plant, animal, man. And that's another part of the repeating process that happens over and over and over again. We're not going to get into that today because I need to make these corrections. We strive for excellence here. And when I make a mistake, I'm not afraid to admit it. And if you noticed in my other video, I did make a mistake. You could tell when I was going down these gradations. Here we have Saturn, Sun, Moon, split the Earth into Mars period and Mercury period, Jupiter, Venus, Vulcan. And then right here I wrote, if you guys are familiar with Fulcanelli, he was an initiate, and he wrote books on the symbolism of the cathedrals. Fulcanelli, you check him out, but his name, Fulcanelli, is Vulcan. Vulcan. He named himself after Vulcan to put forth to other initiates that he was a knower of the sacred science, that he was an adept in this science. Okay, so just an interesting little note there. But here's the correction I wanted to make. Now, I showed you, look at the symbol, that's the sigil of Lucifer. That's important because remember, Lucifer is the angels of death, right? The angel of death, the angels of death, because it's the Lucifer spirits who guided man into the body or the tomb, the sepulcher of the soul, as Plato calls it, okay? And man, this is the manna of heaven. We are the manna of heaven because we are these beings. We are these beings. We evolved right along with the descent of the spheres. We lived on each sphere. And then we've come down the gradations. That's how we evolved. This is our ancient history. This is our ancient history. This is how we evolved every step of the way from the mind of God. We are one with the mind of God, and we've been one with every orb that has come down the gradations into solid matter. We've evolved right along with it, and we haven't always had the form that we're in now or the consciousness that we have now. So, manna from heaven. Manna means man, and man means mind. Mind. This is all about the descent of the mind. We are truly mind at our core. We are the mind of God. So, think of the Lucifer sigil that I showed you. It's on the previous video to this. And it's going to be the key to my mistake. In my other video, I got down here and I said Saturn, Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, and I was making the parallels. Saturn parallels the Vulcan period. The Sun parallels the Venus period. And then this is where I messed up. And then I said, the Moon and Jupiter are parallel, and then these two are parallel. My mistake. That's incorrect. These, they cross at the bottom, okay? So that's where you get your inversion, because the Moon and Mercury have an affinity, and it's Mars and Jupiter that have an affinity. Think fire and water, okay? Each planet is going to have an affinity with fire or an affinity with water. We've got all the elements, but as we know, each element is just a higher or lower gradation of the other. When we're talking about fire and air, that's why they're both the upward triangle. Air has a little capstone on it. And water is the downward triangle, and earth is the downward triangle with an inverted capstone. Now think about that, because that means something too. We're not going to explain everything, but think about it. You'll figure it out. So we've got here Saturn and Vulcan are parallels, Sun and Venus are parallels, but the Moon and Mercury are parallels, and then Mars and Jupiter are parallels because Jupiter is a fiery planet. It has those attributes, same attributes with Mars, but it's a higher gradation of Mars. And then the Moon and Mercury has a watery aspect to it. It's quicksilver. It's the liquid metal Mercury. Mercury is Hermes. We know him by the name of Hermes. Okay? Mercury, Hermes, Woden, Enoch, all the same, okay? And we may also know Saturn by another name, Melchizedek, okay, Melchizedek. So there's many ways to say the same thing, and that's why people get so confused, because there's so many different names, there's so many different ways to say it, but when you start to catch on to it, it'll open up to you, and the floodgates will open. Oh, another correction that I wanted to make, something I said in a previous video, and this was I just kind of skipped past it, but I said the precession of the equinoxes are due to the tilt of the Earth. That's incorrect. What I actually meant to say is it's due to the wobble of the Earth, okay? So you got your axis. We are tilted on the axis, but it's that wobble that creates the backward declination of 1 degree every 72 years due to the precession of the equinoxes, okay? And why is our Earth wobbling, do you suppose? Let's think about that. What happened in our ancient history that would make our Earth wobble on its tilt? I bet somebody can figure this out. Think about it. Or I can just tell you, but you can think about it, and we'll get back to it. Okay, so affinities between the planets, and so planets have affinities, but think of the musical scale. So if a planet and another planet have an affinity, they share certain things, and we correlated Saturn with the Moon because they share an affinity. They're of like nature in a sense that the Moon orbits the Earth in about 29.2 days on average, I think. And then Saturn orbits the Sun in like 29.5-ish, something like that, years, okay? So there's that affinity. Everything's in like this grand time lock. If we can study the patterns and study the angles and everything's within this time lock. Let me check how much time we've got right now. Okay, we're at 13 minutes. Okay, so this is our ancient history. These beings, the sun is a being. Saturn, the Orion Nebula, all of that happening there, that's a being. Okay, the moon is a being. All the planets, everything is a being and is inhabited by beings as well, spiritual beings. Okay, and we are a part of all this. We've gotten to the level where we've taken fully on material bodies. The other ones have not done that, except for, say, in the case of planets. The planets are also beings. Okay? So that's important to keep in your mind for later. And what are we doing as we come down this descent of history? We're getting to the bottom of it. We got to get to the bottom of this. We got to get to the bottom of things. You know, when you're trying to figure something out, you got to get to the bottom of it. And why do we get to the bottom of it? Why do we get to the bottom of it? To understand. Because you have to get to the bottom of things to understand it. And then, as Jordan Maxwell, the late great, said, to understand is to stand under. And what are we standing under? All of it, the cosmos. So we got to get to the bottom of things so we can understand. And that's what we're doing on this great cosmic scale. We're getting to the bottom of things so we can understand. And how we do that is we stand under the cosmos and observe and try to figure it out through the patterns that nature is showing us. And that's how God speaks to us. See if there's anything else. The involutionary and evolutionary arc are the two thieves in their lower aspects. When they're in their lower aspects, the lower mind, the lower Luciferic mind, and the lower right-brained mind are thieves. They're two thieves that steal from you. Okay, if you're imbalanced to either one of them, it's going to steal from you. It's a thief. But when they come together in perfect Saturnian union, then the thieves are transmuted into Christ. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else I was going to talk about here on this one. This is just a short video to make the corrections is all. And if you guys notice anything that you think needs to be corrected, point it out to me. I won't be offended. I'm trying to learn too. All I want to know is what's right. That's it. We're just trying to get to the bottom of things so we can understand. And there might be some things I'm not understanding correctly. See, I already made, I made a mistake. I mean, I make a lot of mistakes, and who doesn't? But we're climbing the ladder. We're trying to refine ourselves. So yeah, if you notice anything, throw it in the comment section. And we'll cover it. We'll walk through it together. Eventually, if I can get up to 1,000 subscribers, I want to start having live discussions where we can bring people in and we can discuss all of this and bounce ideas off each other. This is not just a one-man show here. I want everybody to be a part of this because this is what it's all about. We got to do this together. So, okay, I think that's it. Oh, I want to make note here, right here I've got written down, right here. I'm going to do a presentation on the symbolism of the oak tree. I think you guys will find that fascinating. And it'll provide another layer of understanding so we can just see, once again, how this process, this creative process, plays out in nature. And I know we know that, but the point is to identify specifics in it because that helps us to understand. Okay, we want to identify the specifics. We want to identify the names of what these processes are and who they represent when the processes are happening. So that's going to be a good one. We'll cover that a little bit later. I think that is it. I don't think I forgot anything that I wanted to cover in this video. So we'll wrap it up. I won't keep you any longer. Okay, thanks guys. We will talk again later.